What's up? Just getting set up here. Of course, there's landscapers outside right now. I can hear them. I don't know if you can. Okay. Just going to wait a second to start, but I can talk a little bit about what's going to happen. So I have the no code list, which is here. And I'm going to rebuild it in Builder. I was going to do this anyway. And for a lot of reasons. You know, it was originally built in Ghost. And Ghost is like a publishing platform. So that was my original intent with it. It was like content based. And it changed a lot over the last year specifically. So it needs a new home. And it makes total sense to build on Builder. So the setup I'll go over quickly, and then basically what I'll do, I think, is just dive into building it, and then as things come up, I'll explain them in Builder or go off in tangents, or maybe like open a new project and show a little demo, something like that. And over a few sessions, I don't know actually how long it'll take, but over a few sessions, eventually have the no code list rebuilt in Builder and launch it. If this is still going well, I'd love to keep live streaming, but we'll see how it goes. I've never done this before, so it's kind of interesting. Even right now, it's pretty interesting. There's no feedback. I'm just talking into nothing. But I do see 10 people in here, which is pretty cool. So, all right, let me get started. It's before I do like the actual building, I do want to describe what I'm working with to start and show you a little bit of what's going on. So, no code list. If you haven't seen it, it lists no code software, and there's like, let's see, 280 or 290, there you go, 290 tools on this list. So you can see right now I'm in Airtable, and this is the actual data for the no code list. I run it in Airtable because it's really easy to manage, and then for the submissions, they come into this other tab. I just embed in Airtable form. So what happens is people submit, and then each week I go through that submissions list, fill out more details on 4 new tools, and then publish them to the live list. So that's how it works. And right now, this Ghost site, which is a completely custom Ghost theme, actually it started from a different Ghost theme that AJ from Card built, which is really funny. Before he was AJ from Card, you know. So it started just on a theme that Ghost provided, but eventually it's like completely custom JavaScript. It's a little crazy. It's hard to manage, to be honest. So I have these, and pulls in the tools, and then you can filter with these categories. Sorry, my screen is a little frozen there. Oops. And that's really the heart of what it is. And then, screen keeps freezing up. And then there's more to it. Like there's a software list, which is what we're looking at. And then I have these sub lists for building, growing, and running a business with no code, an enterprise list, a niche no code list, which is kind of cool. But then I also have a resources list and an agencies list and a stacks list, like projects that were built on no code. And this is the same thing. They're all coming out of Airtable. So here's the resources, the agencies, etc. And then there's memberships on here. And so what it is now is you sign up for the no code list, you become a member, you can comment. I call it endorse. You can like endorse software and write a comment about it. And then, you know, if I were to go, maybe I should find one with a comment. If I were to go to one of these, people could read the comment. There we go. And that's what it is, but it's not well executed. It's just like, it's confusing when you sign up for a membership. There's not that much stuff. It's really weird. And so part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild all of that stuff, but instead of in Airtable, right now the membership is half in Airtable and half in Ghost. Ghost has like, it's almost like MemberStack or MemberSpace. It's like a built-in membership thing. So right now it's kind of all over the place, and I'm going to take that part and move it into Builder native. And Builder's native data collections and native users, I'll be able to do a lot more with them. And then this actually has upvoting built in but hidden. I'm going to turn on that upvoting, and the idea will be like some more user-generated interaction. You know, some other reason to come to the site besides just looking at this list. So that's that, and I have a builder project started here. This is just a blank project So I'm going to kind of just dive right in, but I'm going to talk a lot about Builder, especially in the beginning, because I want this to be as much about Builder as it is about No Code List. No Code List is kind of just like the backdrop. It gives me something to talk about and some reason to do stuff, but really what I'd like to do is build with Builder and show Builder off. So if I do have the chat visible on my screen here, so if you want to see anything, like feel free to just chat into Twitch. And if I see it, hopefully I'll see it, it's right here, then I'll gladly, you know, go off on tangents, take breaks, whatever. And the first thing I'll do in general, which I do for almost all my projects, that's another thing. I want to try to also kind of give you some insight into how I build projects, which is completely personal. Everyone does it their own way, but it's kind of a fun thing to share, a little bit of my process. And my background is development, so the way that I use Builder comes from that background, so it could be interesting, especially if you're not a developer. So anyway, yeah, let's get started. So I come into Builder like any project. It's a blank canvas. And this here is a completely, it's open-ended. So it's kind of like Figma, where you can just drag a bunch of pages onto the canvas. So the first thing I'll do is drag a blank page. And this is more just to show you the extra options that come up now. Let me just double check something real quick to make sure I'm not missing something. Hearing some messages here. Oh. Some people are saying the live stream's not working, so let me just double check before I keep going. All right, it's working for some people at least. All right, I'm gonna come back to the stream. All right. Okay, sorry about that. So let's see. All right, so what I'll do is quickly describe Builder, and then I think I'm gonna step back and go more into the no code list and how it's set up and start pulling stuff in. But the first thing to kind of wrap your head around is in Builder. First of all, Builder is like fully open-ended. And when I first started working in Builder, I was hesitant to say that. I feel like it's almost hard to believe in no code. You know, first question is always, where's the limit? But it's wild. I haven't hit a limit yet. And the reason is Builder is sort of opinionless and just modeled on HTML and CSS and JavaScript. It's kind of like it just takes the syntax and coding best practices, the browser best practices, and builds on top of that. So you're able to do a lot. So it's kind of tricky when you first start in and describe this stuff. I mean, I could go in a million different directions, but at a very basic level, on the left side here, we're going to have elements. So right now there's nothing on the page, but we'll see a tree of elements, you know, like things that are on the page. And on the right side, we're going to have actions, and that's for the interactivity. And so that's a simplified way to say it, because there's a lot that goes into each of those. Like the elements have their styling and all that, and actions have this thing called resonance, these data listeners that do live updating. So there's a lot there, but which I'll touch on. But that's the basics, elements and actions. And then there's data. So you have data collections and a lot of other stuff beyond that, but that's kind of the basics. So if I were to build a page, like an HTML page, if I were coding, the first thing I would do is I would put a few elements on the page, type code, put a few elements on the page. You know, whether it's like a container div or a section, like I do everything in sections down the page. So I'd sort of just start setting that up. And then what I personally do is I do an initial set of styles. I have like an issue looking at the default stuff. And when it doesn't look nice, I can't wrap my head around it. So I always do a little bit of styling in the beginning. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag a few elements onto the page, set up a basic structure, set up a few classes, show you how the Builder CSS works. And then I'll take a break from that once it's kind of like half in place and do some more stuff as far as like interactivity, pulling an Airtable, all that kind of stuff. And not all today. I don't know how long I'll go. We'll see, but I'm thinking probably like an hour. And I think if I weren't doing a lot of explanation, just to give you an idea, like moving this project over since it's already designed and since it's coming from Airtable and all that, I mean, this might be like 2 or 3 of these sessions to do start to finish. If I were sitting down, I could probably do this in one day. You know, maybe clean up a few details the next day. It's really fast to build. I don't know how long this will take because I purposely want to do tangents, so we'll see. But it's really fast to build in Builder, and it's kind of crazy. You'll see as I do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag some elements onto this page. And what I do, this is personal preference, but I take a section. Now these are called section and container and stuff like that in Builder here. But really what this is a div. You know, in HTML, this is a div. And so this section right now, I have some properties for it. I have some styles for it. These are like classes. And then I can add events to it. And so properties we won't worry about right this second, but I'll go right into styling. This comes out of the box. Like when I dragged it onto the page, right now it's coming with display flex column, a utility class, and a class called section. If I want to check what's on these classes, I can click into these and see some properties. And so you can see like these are visual properties. So I can add a new property here. Not only can I add any CSS property I want, like it doesn't have to be built into Builder, it's just any property. I can actually add incorrect CSS properties. Builder lets us do that because, like I said, it's not opinionated. So here I'm just adding a property and Builder will interpret that, you know, to the front end when someone's viewing the site. Builder will interpret that to say, you know, style equals, well, it's actually on a class. So it'll, you know, it'll list these style properties for that class and just do it for us. And that's all it is. And so it's easy. I can say anything I want in there. If there's some kind of crazy pseudo selector that I want to use that's not valid CSS, I can actually use it in Builder, which is kind of cool. What I'm going to do right now, though, for this section, after all that, is just remove both these classes. So this right here is just a div element right now. It's technically a section because I dragged a section component in, or a section element in, but it's just a div. It has no properties. And that's actually what I want for right now. What I'm going to do, just to show you, I'm going to create, basically what I do is I put stuff in a Builder, I drop it on the canvas. Sometimes I keep the default, some elements come with some good default properties, but a lot of times I don't, I just remove them. And then I just create kind of a default class for each thing. And so in this case, this is a section. We already have a class called section, so maybe I'll call this like section, no code list. Another really awesome thing about building this way, if you come from the code land, is I don't have to care what I name this class because I can change the name later. Since this is all in a GUI, I can change the name later of that class and it updates everywhere in my project. So it's kind of like a benefit you might not think about with no code in general, but as I've been using Builder more, I've just loved the freedom of building so fast, staying in the flow state, naming things whatever I want. Like if I'm not sure about this class, I'm like, well, is it this section? Is it going to apply to this? Is it, you know, is it a whatever? I don't have to care. I can just slap it in there. So it's kind of cool that way. So yeah, so I'm going to, for now, not put any styles in this. This is just empty, but it's a section class. And I'm going to put on every section that I have on every page. And then inside of every section, every page, I'm going to put a container. And I'll show you why I do this setup. This is, again, total personal preference. Do something very similar here. I'm going to remove this container class, the defaults. But I'll make my own, and I'll call it container no code list. Now, I could also have just edited the container class that's on there. The only reason I don't do that is just because I'm a little bit OCD, I guess. Like I like to just start fresh, but there's no reason not to just edit the main one, which will be fine. So anyway, I've got now a section and a container. And if you think of sections on the page, like the header would be a section, you know, maybe there's like a main hero section, maybe there's a main body content, there's a buy button section. Like I just think of sections on the page. I'll put each one of those in a section. And then I'll put a container in each one of those. And in the container, I kind of always do this. That's why I'm filling these in. I'll do a max width. I'm going to do a margin left. And I'm going to do a margin right. So the max width, basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a section which is full length, full width. And then I'm putting a container inside of it that will be like a centered column on the page. So no matter how big the browser is, I'm going to kind of limit how wide my content gets. And so I'm going to change this later probably, but for now, I'm going to say 1400 pixels is the max width, and margin left and right, I'm going to set to auto. And so what that does, that's a way to center it. And this is an HTML thing or a CSS thing. So if you're wondering like, okay, how do I center a container in Builder? Well, you actually would Google I mean, you could maybe Google how to center a container in Builder, but what you really need to Google is how to center a container in CSS. And that's the beauty of it, because you're just adding any CSS properties here, and then it'll do what you want. So there's not a container in Builder that I'm using. I'm just putting a div on the page and adding classes or adding styles. Another quick thing to note is that at any point with these styles, you can actually see the raw CSS of that element. So this is the stuff I just added, the max width and the margins. And I could come in here and add whatever I want. And not only will it update, well, there's nothing in there, so I probably can't see it. Oops. Not only will it update, but it comes down into here too. And so like, really, I think for that, I would need, to see it, something like this. So that's just a cool note, because what you can do is you can find cool styles on a website you like. And I'll do this a little bit when I move in no code list. Just like inspect element on them, copy styles right out, or you can find a demo or an example, or like Bootstrap or Tailwind CSS. If you see those styles, you can pull them into Builder very easily with copy and paste, just like that. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, what I've got here is I've got my section and my container set up. And I do that on every project, so I just went ahead and set it up. But really, I would consider that like default. Like I almost like haven't started yet. So what I need to do now is I need to do a few things. I need to set a main page style that's going to apply to every page. And then I need to just start filling out these pages with these sections and containers and whatever goes in them. And so to do that, since I'm matching this no code list, I can come out here first. And what I'm going to do is I'll have to pull in this font. I'll have to pull in the background color, the logo, all that stuff. I'll kind of set up these base styles. And the way I do that, again, this comes from code, and you can do this in a million different ways in Builder, and you can do this however you want. But I create a body class, or a page body class. I put on every page at the top level. And in there, I'll define a background color, a foreground color, like a default text color. And I'll define font size, a couple of things like that. Even some browser cleanup, or some they call it like resets. So like, you ever seen reset.css files? Even some reset stuff I'll pop on there. And that sets up my base for everything. So if I set up a font size of 14 on that base class, then everywhere else that I use font size, instead of setting pixels, I set it in ems or rems. And so then everything's proportionate to that base class. And what that's going to allow me to do later on in the project, when we do responsive design, it's going to allow me to say, when the screen gets to a tablet size, all I have to do is change that body font size on that body class. And since all the other classes are relative to it, the whole rest of the site will shrink down or size up or do what I want in that way. So just kind of a cool way to build. And in Builder, what you do for that, I'm on this page home here. And if I go to page properties, each page actually has a similar setup where you can do a primary style class, which a code way to say is that's like a class. Like on the actual attributes class, and you can see it there. A utility class, which will overwrite the primary class, or I can do inline styles here. And just like code, just like CSS, the inline styles overwrite the other classes, and everything inherits just like CSS. So this has a page body class on it. Like I was saying before, how I do that weird thing where I recreate them. I'm just going to recreate. And actually, before I recreate, let me just put that back on. I'll show you. This does come with a few things that make your site look good, like this margin 0, stuff like that. So if you do this route and you remove the page body, just make sure on your new one that you add any like reset style. You check that other class, whatever. And actually, you can find online, there's a lot of stuff you can reset that makes sites just kind of like better by default, or start at a better spot. So you can just pop them in there. So I'm going to call this body class no code list. And like I said, I can just change this later if I don't like that name. And I always, on a body, I'll do kind of like a padding margin reset. Set the font family. I don't even know what the family is yet, so I'm going to keep it like that. And I'll show you, we're going to add a custom font into Builder. I set a default size. I'm going to change that based on whatever it is on no code list. I'm going to match the design to no code list almost exactly. Like maybe I'll change it a little a couple little details, but I'm not going to think too much about the design. Let's see. Sometimes I do line out here. We can add more to this later, but you get the idea. So that's going to set up the base styles. And actually, one thing I can do just so we can see some progress, basically. Let's see. I'm going to try to find this background color. There we go. And maybe the foreground color too. Okay. And so I'll set background color to this one and color. Whoops, I didn't copy it all the way. All right, cool. Now you can see here, this actually should be yellow. Tiny bug currently in Builder is that won't update until I refresh, just in the studio. No big deal. All right, so let's see, that's set up. I'm gonna live view it just to see that yellow color. More to just talk about live view, I guess. So in Builder, as you're building in here, by default, you're in the development environment. And in the development environment, there's a live view. And the cool thing about live view is it's not a preview. It's not like you're opening in something and seeing kind of like a preview of what it'll look like. You're just viewing the current live site. And so it's your development version, which means if you have a running public application, you're going to run that in your production environment. And you have, by default, you have a development environment, a test environment, and a production environment. So when you run in production environment, it's kind of like any changes you're making in development aren't going to affect that until you publish. So that's like a safe, bug-free area for your users. But in development, you can have that same live view with this live view, and it's called live view, like I said, not preview, because it's the same as that published site. It's the same thing. It's the exact in-browser. There's nothing on it. There's no extra, and you just get to view it. So that I don't know if that seems important to people or not, but it's actually it's an important distinction as far as testing. It makes things a lot faster when you test. So if I live view this now, I haven't selected a root page, like a root landing page, but in Builder, since I have this open canvas and I can put 1 million pages, some pages are actually components on other pages. Some pages get repeated in lists. A page isn't always a URL. So here, because I haven't set any URL routes up, it's going to ask me just to choose a default one. And there's only one page, so I can only choose home. But now that's going to make my project, slash, like if I don't have anything after the URL, it's going to make it open the home page. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so there's that yellow background. As you can see, I didn't put anything else on the page, so we can't see anything else. But technically there's, let's inspect it. So here's that section, which is a section tag, which is really just a div, but section is more semantic. Here's that class, and Builder converted it to an ID, but this is that class section no code list. And then here's the container, which is actually literally a div. And here's that container no code list class. So you can see the styles here. This one, I don't think I put any styles on yet. So they're there and they're working. So, all right, now on a normal project, at this point, you kind of like choose what you want to bring in or what you want to do first. I'm probably going to set up some basic stuff on the page, like dummy cards. I'll put the logo and the header in there, put in some dummy cards, make that list on the left populate. And then at the next session or a different session, I'll actually pull data into it. But for now, I want to get it sort of like set up and just try it out. And I think it's kind of cool for today anyway, because what we can do is we can focus on elements and CSS and like how to bring stuff over. And we'll keep this actions and interactivity for the next session. So let's see. So to start, I have a couple ways that I'm going to pull this code over. One way is I can inspect anything that's live on the no code list and see the styles here, and I can actually like select them all and copy and paste right into Builder if I want. But also I made this originally, so I've got this is the code for my theme, and I've got a SAS folder here with like tons of different CSS files. There's SCSS files, which is a SAS compiler, I guess. So if you're not familiar with code, it's actually just a way to write CSS faster using SCSS or SAS. And it looks a little crazy in here, but basically I have all these files, and each of these files has different parts of the no-code list. Like I think like here's cards, like these cards here, each one of these, oh man, how do I get back there? Is in here. So, and this is a little different formatting. It's gonna be a little tricky to copy all these over in one shot, but I'll copy these over in a builder. So what I'm gonna do first, before I start pulling in the actual styles, is I'll start with some elements, and then we'll add classes and styles. So I've got this section and this container in here for now. And this first section would be the header right here. But actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a reusable header that we can use on each page. That way, when I do the next pages, the other lists, agencies list, stacks list, resources list, I can put that same header on. If I make a change in the one page in the studio here, it updates everywhere. Very standard for code. So I just call this page header, and the header itself is going to be a component, but it's actually the same setup. I'm going to still use the same like section and container thing here. So I'm going to go to the home page, click on section, and copy it. And then I'm going to go to this page, and I can either paste or I can paste with children. Since I want to paste that that section and the container inside of it, I'm going to paste with children. Maybe I'm going to. I think it's frozen. There it goes. Well, maybe not. There we go. So another one of those might actually pop in there because I clicked it twice, but we'll see. All right, so I have that for header. I have the container, which is my center column. And then what I can do, I need to pull in this logo. I'm not even going to mess with finding this on my computer. I'll just pop this there. Oops. Now in Builder, you can do anything you can do in code. So in some cases, I might put a div and change the background image property to do an image. And I'll show some of that later probably, because that's a good way to do if you don't know the final size of the image. And then other times I'll actually put an image element onto the page. In this case, we've got an image element. I put it in that container. Now the image element, I'm in properties here. This is the same. So this has a properties tab, a styling tab. This has a default image class on it. It's got an events tab where you can do click, mouse events. Actually, any valid or invalid JavaScript event you can type in here and make work. And then this one, when I looked at the section earlier, it didn't have this data tab because the section can't get data, but images can. And so data is a way that you bind values from the database. So it's something we'll touch on later. So images by default, they come with this width of 400 pics. Take that off actually. And I'm going to select a file here. I'm just going to choose one of those that I just downloaded. This is an SVG. And like, it's kind of the theme, you know, like anything works. It's the same as code. So I put an SVG in here. SVGs are scalable. You can see that it instantly went to the full width here. So I'm going to need to use styles to change that. Now, I don't know what the smartest thing to do as far as should I just recode this with the styles or should I try to copy these styles? But I'll check these styles first. Maybe I will. It's been so long since I've been in here, so I don't know where everything is. But this is called header. Display flex. Got some stuff. Yeah, I think I'm just going to redo this actually. I'll need to take some of this. But this is using Flexbox, and I think I would like to use Grid. I love Grid lately. It's not great for every situation, but I've been using Grid so much more. All right, so this logo is clearly too big. I can change the width of it; it'll get smaller. But what I really want to do is I want to create almost like two columns. A left column that's going to have the logo in it, and a right column that's going to have the menu in it. And the reason I want to do that is, well, a couple of reasons, but thinking ahead a little bit, I know that menu, when I go to mobile, I'm going to want to like slide it out as a slide out panel. So I just know that I want the menu as its own separate thing, and I'm going to stack them and all that. So what I'll do is inside this container, which this container is always here. It's always section container. And you know, I could rename this. I don't know if I'll do this, but like you can rename these anything you want so that you can see what's going on more easily in here. Oops. And then also once you start using actions, when you're tying them to elements or getting values out of elements, it's a lot easier to find when you name things. And some of the things like text boxes and stuff like that will name automatically based on what's in them. Anyway, in this container header, I'm going to add another container. So I have a choice of keeping container header always like its own thing, never touching it, never putting anything else on it, and keeping stuff in it, or I can do stuff to container header itself. In this case, I'm going to add a utility class on a container header to change it, to make it into columns. And I'm not going to add that utility class to the other containers. So they'll share their base styles, but I can kind of edit each section's individual styles more granularly. So I have this container in here, and again, I'm just removing that class. So essentially it's a div, and this will be, I'll just name these for now. This will be the logo container. And then I can duplicate this, and this will be the menu container. Oops. So for now, I'll put the logo in the logo container. I didn't make the menu yet, but it'll go in there. Thing is, right now it's just stacking because in HTML, a div, a block level element, is just a full width thing. It doesn't do it, you know, it's not going to go side by side. It's not going to do anything until we tell it to. So on this container header element where I have container no code list, I'm going to add a utility class, and any styles I put in this class will override this base class. So what I can do is I can say this will be container header, because these styles will be specific to the container header. I could add this to a different container if I wanted, but really it's just for container header. And the way I'm going to do them side by side, you have a lot of choices to do things side by side. I have been really loving display grid lately, and then you set grid template columns. And what you can do is you can set these columns to be an explicit size to fill the available width. You can set as many columns as you want. You do that all through this grid template columns value. And then when you do responsive, you just change this value and it can shift around your layout. It's pretty fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a value for each of the two columns in that menu. And I think, let's match this pretty exactly. So we'll see what the max width is on this. Sorry, this is all jammed up here. Yeah, that's like an image inside of an A. I'm glad we're redoing it. All right, max width 350. So I can come in here, and this first column, I want it to be 350 pixels wide. The next column, I could set another value like that if I wanted, but I don't actually know how, I don't know how long I want it or how wide I want it. I want it to basically fill the rest of the screen. So I could say in other HTML, you could say something like calc 100 VW screen width minus 350 pixels. But grid's cool. I can just say one fractional width, one FR, and that basically just fills all the remaining space. And so to demonstrate, that's the easiest way. So I'll just put an inline style on this container. This is the menu container here. Say I did a background color of blue. You can see that right there. But say I wanted to have 3 columns, and I wanted this one to be 350 pixels, but this, you know, the remaining 2 columns to split the rest, I would be like 1 FR, 1 FR. You can see that splits there. And if this was only 150 pixels, you know, you can see that splits now, or can go the full way. So you can do a lot of cool stuff with this. And what I'll do with this, this is pretty much it. I'm going to have it like this. I'm going to put the menu in here and text line it right, or somehow align it right. And then here's like responsive breakpoints. What I can do is when this gets down to, I guess I can just do it right now, maybe this size, I can actually just make this 1 FR. And what that'll do is I'll just stack everything. It'll make it one, full width every time. I could write 100% in there if I wanted, but I'm only allowing it one column. But yeah, on the main desktop width right now, which is what I'm focusing on in the beginning, I'll mention some responsive stuff because I kind of build it in as I build. But really what I'll do is make everything and then we'll go back and touch on responsive in a future session. So, all right, so let me remove this blue color. And then let's put the menu in here. So the menu itself, just thinking a little bit, the best way to do it. So I can do, like, these can just be links, which are inline block elements or inline. So they don't stack by default. Like a div is a block element and it stacks. So I think what I'm gonna do is for now at least, I'm just gonna stick links in here for each of these. And then if I wanna make this something different later, I'll just add, I can add containers around them and do more stuff. But we'll start simple. So there is an element called link in Builder. I should actually show. There's like all of these built-in elements here. And actually, let me go on a quick tangent. These elements they're in everyone's Builder project, like in your individual project. And they're fully customizable and you can add your own. So this set of elements, if I wanted to, I could actually change this up. I could remove a bunch so I only have the ones I want. I could add new ones. I could change the default styles. Like actually I could change the default styles on this section instead of doing the way I did it where I removed and added my own. I could just make a default. You can do a lot of things and that's all contained in your Builder project. So it never goes away. It's always future compatible. And when you create a new element, you're writing a render function in JavaScript, and then you're using JSON basically to set properties on this element. Like these classes, like when I have specific properties, like this is an image, so it's got like the source property and the width and height, but this is a container, so it's got a name, draggable, droppable properties. So you set all that stuff in JSON, you set a render, or you create how it's going to render in JavaScript, and you can create any new elements you want. And so what I'll do, this Airtable, I don't know if any of the patterns I'll bring in for this have new elements, but they do have custom actions, which is a similar process. So that's just kind of a cool note in Builder. Essentially, you can make things that would be either one-off to your project to make you be able to build really fast, or if you're an agency, things that might be one-off to your agency, or even if you're a freelancer, things that you do across all projects. And then the next step up from that is these custom elements, custom actions, templates, everything is shareable under what we call patterns. And so you can actually create patterns for all your custom stuff, and just it's kind of like they say in code to only build things once. This is like Builder is it's such an extreme version of that. Like you truly only have to build things once. It's amazing. And you'll see a little bit of that too, because I'll pull in sign in, sign up stuff from a pattern. I'll pull in Airtable from a pattern. And it's like, I built that once for a pattern, and now every project I never build it again. All right, anyway, let me throw some links in here. And like I said, sometimes I put containers around this stuff or do more, but for now, I'm just gonna put links in and see how it goes. So I have display text to the link, and so I'm matching this this menu here. So I would just say this first one will be software, and see that updated the name too. So now when I go to find it, I can see it's called software. It's kind of nice. And then another one, I kind of forget already what the next menu is. I should probably know that. Resources. Agencies. Let me just see how many. Stacks, posts, membership. Stacks. I think I'll get rid of posts actually. Posts was like the original idea where I was gonna kind of like write these long form things about like no code spreadsheet websites, no code data scraping, and just like lay out. But you know what? That takes a lot more time than you'd expect. I did like 4 of them really simply, but that's it. And they get some traffic, so I don't know if I'll remove them, but for now I'm just gonna leave that off. All right. So you can see it looks like this. And they look like links because they have this style called link on them. And technically because they're an A tag. And an A tag will get some link properties from the browser. So I don't need this link class, so I can take that off. And you can see, I just took off that first one. You can see now it doesn't look like a link. But I think that if I had an href in here and I live view it, yeah, see, then it looks, that's like the browser's default link. Where'd this go? What? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to include that header. So before I go too far, we actually need, this is just a header. It's not even a live page. So on this home page where we have nothing yet, just the section and container, I'm going to insert the header above it. And the header has its own section and container. So I'm actually going to do this is its own thing. But there's an element called component, which basically you drag it onto a page and then you set another page into it. So I can put this right here on top. And the component page, I can select header. So now you see that header is nested into the home page. And if I want to edit it, I click this and it comes up to here to edit. So, so we see that now. And as you can see already, this is white on the top here. That probably comes from one of these classes. Let's see. Actually, what does that come from? That probably comes from this header page having a body class. Okay, so I don't need that. And that body class has a white background on it. Oh, maybe not. Let's just see where it's coming from. Yeah, it is coming from that body class, actually. I was a little nervous because Builder's beta, I was a little nervous coming to do like live streaming for if anything weird like this happens. But what I just did there is I cleared my site data and then refreshed my page. And I did that to like clear out my whole cache and kind of start from scratch. It's really interesting here because now nothing's showing up. So let's just check this. Oh yeah, so that's so strange. So I don't know why, but that homepage was set to the wrong body class. So little things like that pop up. But what's cool is when things like that happen, we just go fix them. Builder's built in Builder. So we just go into the Builder project, fix them, and then the next release that comes out, that'll be fixed. I mean, most of the stuff you'll see today or in these sessions is probably already fixed. Okay, so we're back. We got the yellow background back. You can see the logo and then these links that are not styled well. And so the Builder default link class is what's making these that don't have an href value. It's making them blue with a hover underline. And then this is an A tag with an href value. So that's kind of the default, that's the default browser stylings. I get turned purple because I went to it now. So I'm just going to override those completely because we want them to be custom. So in this case, I'll do a primary and I'll call it, I'm just kind of right now, I didn't even plan to do this. I'm just calling this like link no code list. And we'll see if this works out. We'll just keep it like that. If not, I can change those names later. So the color, I'm going to try to do inherit, but we'll see if that works. So inherit on any CSS property will inherit the value from its parent. And in this case, it will inherit all the way up to the body class where I have a color set to that 262626. It's like a dark gray. So I think that'll work here unless the browser is overriding. So yeah, that stayed the same color. So that's good. And then that underline I don't want. And so again, this is like CSS. And if you want to learn how to remove an underline, you can Google remove underline CSS. Like it's not Builder specific. But I do text decoration none. And that'll be none. The color, let's see what sizes we're working with. And I don't know, I might actually go find the size in my code instead of here. because this is showing me the responsive size. So let's see. And again, like no prep here. I have no idea where anything is, but it shouldn't take me too long to find. I'm looking for something called typography. All right. So, oh, okay. So this is using variables. So if you're curious, if you know CSS and you've never seen all this stuff, this is SAS, like, or SCSS, like I was talking about before, where we have included like this is like a breakpoint function that puts a media query with like a variable for the actual pixel width. We've got all this stuff nested. It's pretty crazy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the base font size. And see, these are all variables, so I can see that there must be. I probably should be looking in a variables file. I'll just go there. Vars. Okay. So in here, and I don't know if I use all these or if these are from the main, the original template, but like I have a variable for like border radius, element height for some reason, sidebar widths. So it looks like I've got good info in here that I can pull over in a second, but it looks like I'm using Open Sans, maybe Roboto for the headings. Maybe I'm not even using that. Weights, that's funny. But there's no size, it seems, so I still have to find the size. Here's the background color. I copied that from the inspecting element. I could have grabbed it from here. Man. If I can't find it in a second, I'm just going to type 14 pixels. Because really, it's not that important to be exact. It's just kind of like a fun thing to make it exact. Oh, okay, here we go. So this is 14 pixels base font size, but that's when the max width is 1280. And it overrides a 14 at 1680, and it overrides a 15 at large. So really, that's like a font size of 15 at the largest size. So I'll just pop that in there. Wait, not in here. So that because that's like a base font, I'm putting that on the page. Putting that on the page class, the body class. Okay, and then let's pop that font in there for now too, because I saw the code. So for fonts, you can add any font you want from a file in your computer if you want, to Google, to Adobe. And a lot of times what I do is I'll add an Adobe font because I pay for Adobe, so they have like some really nice fonts. But Google Fonts is free, and Google Fonts is what NoCodeList uses. So the way that you add a font, you can see the builder default comes with this Google font called Cabin. The way that you add it is you specify the URL for it and some names, or you can upload a file here if you want to upload a file. So Google Fonts, when you create your font, it'll give you that link. And in this case, oh shoot, where did I see that? Oh, Vars. Oh, this isn't the link yet. Let me find that link. Here we go. So they give you this link here. And the idea is like in my case, I put that link in the CSS and then it pulls it in and can use it. Sometimes you put that link in the head or in the HTML and then it pulls in and you can use it. In Builder, I put that link right here. And the name here is Open Sans or that. And the fallback would be sans serif. So I just set that up like that. Oh, you know what? It didn't pop in. Wonder why. Let me, I think that might be the wrong format for the link. That's fine. This is a better demo. So we go to Google Fonts. It's crazy. If you've never been here, there's so many fonts. It's kind of hard to pick, but when you find one and you click on it, so you have to select the styles you want, and the ones that I had on here were 400, 600, italics. Oh, cool. Actually, I'll do a couple things here. So I'm just reading this here. I have Open Sans 400, 600, 400 italic, and 600 italic. And then I have Roboto 400 and 700 coming in. Those numbers are the font weights. So 400 is regular, and actually 700 is bold, but it looks like I'm using 600 for Open Sans bold. So I select this, and then don't need that, this, and this. And then what I do, the link that I just pasted in was this, but I'll actually switch to this import link. Oh, is that the same link? So maybe that just should have worked. Whatever, I'll try it. Actually, let me refresh this and see if it just works. Another cool thing I just learned this morning, we're in the process of doing like a lot of server speed up type things, and I haven't seen the new server, but from what I hear, it's much faster than this, which should be crazy. Okay. Design library, fonts. Yeah, that's not in there. That's weird. I'm gonna delete this and try again. I don't know why that's not working right now, but I'm gonna ignore it for a second. We can fix it. I mean, normally that works. You paste it in and it works, but I'm not sure. But what I am gonna do is, now that I have the font available to use on this body class, I'm gonna actually set all the fonts. I'm gonna set that as like basically the default base font. And because I added it, it shows up here in this drop down, but I can also enter manually and just enter something in there. And so this might not work because I don't know if that font actually pulled in, but I'll test it out. Yeah, it looks like it didn't work. But I'll take care of that later, to be honest. I just saw that URL for the fonts and I wanted to put it in, so all right. So really quickly now, I added this first link here. I added this link no code list class too, so I'm just gonna add that to the rest. And as far as CSS goes, and the reason that things are done this way is that if I add this link no code list to all these, then I can change just that class in one place in the future and it'll update all of these links. So that's the reason for using classes, because actually you can do everything. Whoops. You can do everything in inline styles if you want. So down here, these inline properties, you can fully style everything there, but then you'd have to write, you'd have to specify a style for every element. And then if you wanted to change, the font size site-wide, for instance, you'd have to change every element. So it'd be annoying. So for now, even though this doesn't look correct yet, I just have these popped in there. And I'm going to add a few other properties to them. Let's see. I feel like I remember that these were set up weird, but I'm just going to check these really quickly in case I can copy. It just looks like padding left and right. All right. So we'll do padding left. I think that said 0.5 M, but I don't even remember already. And padding right. And you see they spaced out now. And then I can do this one. I feel like I'll definitely change later, so I'm just going to put this in an inline, but I'll just do text align right. So now we can see it's starting to get set up, right? And so even as far as like the width here, it's like not quite full width. It's not quite full width. So that's good. It's that centered column. And then, well, I don't know if I really need that. It's kind of a little random detail. So search bar. So let's just lay this stuff in because I'm going to stop pretty soon for today. But I'll just lay a few things in and then it'll be a good place to stop probably. So that's the header, right? Then I have this next section, which is empty right now. This next section is going to be the search. And then I'm going to do another section, which is like the main container. And then it takes forever to scroll down, so let me just select one of these. And then on the bottom, there'll be a section for the footer. Well, actually, there'll be two maybe. There'll be a section for this email sign up and then a section for the footer. And the section for the footer, like the header, will be a component that we just stick in. And actually, the newsletter could be a component too, or it could just be in the footer because it should be on every page. So this section here, I'll just duplicate. And actually, let's do this for all of them. So that's search, main content, newsletter, and footer. Even though footer is a component, I can copy it out of here and paste it later. So I'll just do that. So this search, there's an actual, so we have all of these inputs that we can use by default. Email input, number input, password, even places lookup. Like you have to get a Google API key, which is, it's free, it's simple, but even that kind of stuff. And the reason these different types of inputs are important, all they are in under the hood is an input element, and the type attribute is set to the correct thing. So an email input is the same as a text input, but instead of type equals text, it says type equals email. And the reason that's important is because, well, it's good to let your browser know semantically what's going on. Your browser will know that's an input. That's good for a number of reasons, but also it's good because on the phone, on the mobile phone, if you have an email input, it pops up a special keyboard with like the @ sign, and you know what I mean? And if you have a number input or a phone number input, it pops up just a number pad. And those little details are just extremely important. For now, I'm going to get a search input, pop it right in this container. You can see this has some default styles. There's an input that has a bunch of stuff on it here. I'll probably take all of that or most of that off. But for now, I'm just going to leave it. And I can even, well, I won't put that in just yet. Okay, and then that's categories and the list. So for this next section, so let's name these two just for good practice. It's the search. Oh, did I paste that in the wrong one? Let's pop this up here. That's the search. This one will be main. This one will be all right, cool. So the main chunk of content, just like the header, I want it to be 2-column. But unlike the header where I just added, put the grid, display grid right on this container class, I'm going to put another container inside of here for the grid. There's not like a great reason to explain why I'm doing that. It's just for organization, and it's completely personal preference. But basically on here, and this is another thing, another way that I build. I know that I want this 2 columns. I don't really know where it's going to share a class, what it's pulling from, etc. yet. So I'll build out these inline properties first. And I'll be like display grid, oops, and template, grid template, columns. That's probably all I need for now, actually, right? Yeah. And then see if there's a width on here. Airtable search, no code menu. Padding right 4 rem, width 190 pixels plus 4 rem. That's strange. So it just eliminates the padding. Okay, so really the width of this is 190 pixels plus 4 rem for the padding. I'll just do that. I'll just keep it the same. So this calc is a CSS thing. It's not a builder thing. It's CSS. Oh, it might be a little. I don't. Let's see if we can do calcs in here. I don't actually know, and I already forget what I said for that. 190M. I don't know. And then the rest. So I don't know if this will work, but we'll try it out. It's another thing I love about building with Builder, like instead of code, is like things like this. You just pop them up so quickly. It's like even if you're not sure if something's gonna work, just test it out, and it's really fast, and you find out. It's faster than looking it up sometimes. So duplicate. Oh, I can already see here. This looks like this worked. It's probably 190 minus 4m. And if I duplicate this, yep, that finishes out the whole rest of the width. Cool. And so I saw some other stuff on here, like I can just add for fun. Like this one I know was padding right of 4m. And my guess is that once I get deeper into this, I'm going to change how this is set up. Because you can set, I don't need to set padding on this sidebar, this menu. I can actually set a column gap with grid, so I can do that instead. But that's how that is. That's set up. And I'll just add little headers in here, headings in here. Oops, I don't know where I dropped that. I don't know where that went. I think it didn't drop. And this one, so you can type in here, click in here to edit stuff. For some reason, I just always stay in here. But this is the categories. And then duplicate this, drag it right here. This is no code software list. I don't even remember what that, oops, I changed the name instead of the display. I don't even remember what that says in the heading. It's so funny. Okay. And then you get the idea. I'm just kind of building this stuff out. I probably won't put anything in the newsletter for now because it's involved. We'll just do that later. And then I don't need to do footer now, but we'll do footer, like I said, similar to header. I think what I'm going to do now, because it's been an hour, is just stop. I actually thought I'd get a lot further. So what I'm going to do is I'll try to touch base with some people that watch and see if this was interesting or not, and see how I can improve it. And so today is Monday, next time is Wednesday, and next time is Friday. I feel like by Friday I should have this nice and ironed out and just be going and kind of more interesting maybe. I don't know if this was not interesting, but I feel like there were a lot of tangents. So I'll ask around and try to figure it out. But hopefully it was interesting enough that you'll watch me again on Wednesday at 1. I think it looks like I'll finish building this main stuff out, finish styling the header and style the cards, and that'll probably take the whole time. But if not, the next thing I'll go into after that is pulling Airtable data in, which I know is people want it. So here's where we're at right now. Decent project for a ton of extra talking, but not too much progress yet. And I think it'll be kind of like an order of magnitude more than this after next session. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. This was cool. I'm going to go check messages or chats. I see there's chats and I wasn't answering them, so I apologize. So I will. So actually, let me just address this real quick. CSS hover. Display bug, but the font is there. Oh, so Cora says that the font was probably there, so that's cool. Well, I'll look into that next time either way. And then I don't know if you're still watching Kopowski, but really quick, and I'll get much more into this next time, but when you're on a style, and I did mention this, so maybe you saw, but the devices are all up here. So if I want to set, the hover we're looking for. So devices are here, right below them is the states. So if I want to set hover state, I might have properties on here. I'll go to one that I have some properties on. So if I have properties here while that's loading, I can just click hover here and then add properties the same way, and they'll apply to just hover. But I also can do disabled, which is built in, or I can add any that I want. So you can add before selectors, after selectors, hover, disabled, focus, and that all goes in there. And I'll definitely get more into that when the time comes. Like first thing will probably be for this input, but I'll be doing that. All right, cool. Thanks so much again. And I'm going to end for now. See ya if I see ya on Wednesday. Thanks so much.